So we log into ClearPass. We need to double check that we do have the license for the onboard. So we have access, which is the authentication license, and we do have onboard. So we're good with that. So now we need to go to onboarding. There are multiple ways. You can go from here, from menu. So we go to onboarding now. So here we click on certificate authority. And we need to add a new one. We have one here, but I'd like to create a new one completely. So it's going to be a root certificate authority. We'll leave it as is, as the first choice. We will enter some details here. The common name will choose Aruba Training Lab, and here the signing one will be the same, signing. The email, if you would like, I kept it as is. The rest of the details we keep as is, and we will create a certificate authority. That's the one we created. We're going to edit this one. We're going to scroll down. So we're going to specify that. Now for this, if you notice, this says the address, and at the end it says 12. And this is to indicate this is the number of the certificate authority you have created, basically. In here we're going to specify localhost, so we're going to say and whatever number here at the end, we need to make sure that we use it. So we're going to make it number 1. This is when the user authenticate, they will include the OCSP, which is the to double check if certificate is valid or revoked, for example. We're going to copy this, and we would like to modify one of the authentication methods. So we're going to copy, we're going to go policy manager, open a new tab. In the authentication method, so we are going to modify this one. So we cannot modify the existing one. We have to just copy this. We're going to copy this method. We're going to rename this. Probably my lab. And when you come here, this has to correspond to the same one we have just included, which is number 1. But I would like to make sure the one we included is the same as this one, HTTP localhost, and the one we copied, we're gonna just paste it here. Make sure that we will untick this box, so we will use the one that is with this authentication method. Save it. In this authentication method, we will uncheck this override from the client, and we leave it unchecked, so we will accept whatever been sent by the onboarding. Now we need to specify the network settings. So we are in the onboarding now, and we'd like to go to we go to the onboarding now, and in the configuration we would like to go configuration network settings. This is where you create the relevant information. So what is your SSID and some other parameters. We will not touch on all of them, just some of them. Let's call this one employee secure. And it is wireless, and the authentication method will leave it as is, WPA2 at this stage. And for SSID name, we probably can call it secure 1. And in the protocols tab, because this is Windows, we focus on Windows, and is EAP-TLS. We'll go next. And in this case, because that's EAP-TLS, we would like to use the client and the machine to authenticate. So Windows authentication is going to be machine and user, certificate base, and we will save the changes. Now, next to this one, we go to deployment and provisioning. And in this case, we will go to the configuration profile, and we're going to create a new one. So basically, this configuration profile. Is going to use the network settings we created in the previous step. So we might want to call it employee secure wireless. And in here, we're going to use the one we created before, employee secure. This is the one, and we're going to save changes. Now, we are one step away from finishing this off. We need to go to provisioning settings. Just remember, in the network profile, we might have different settings, so you might want to create multiple. Each indicates an SSID, and the users will have the option to select which SSID to connect to. So now we go back to provisioning settings. I'm going to create a provisioning settings. Give it whatever name. So I give it employee name and company. This is for demo purpose. In the identity store, which bases certificate authority, we're going to use the one we created before. And it will be onboard certificate authority. That's what we're going to do. And we will select our certificate authority here. And for the key, of course, the longer the better, but I'll keep it as is because that will take more processing. So we'll keep it as is. And here in the authorization, we will use our configuration profile that we have created previously. That's the maximum number of devices. We'll leave it 0. It means there's no max. Scroll back, and then we go to the web login. This is the page, so we'll leave the name as is. This is the page that will be provided for the onboarding capture portal. We now click on onboard client, and in here we're going to select the management port, the one that we need to use. And for the provisioning access, it's not best practice, but I will, for the demo purpose, will say do not validate the web service certificate for the time being, and we're going to save the settings. Now we need to go back to ClearPass Policy Manager and create onboarding service. So this is the service that will authenticate those who will try to onboard. We're going to use the wizard. So here we can use the onboard wizard. So you can scroll down and you find this one here. I will start the process of configuration for the onboarding service. And probably the profile name, we call it employee wireless. If you create this one for the first time, you will not see select profile. The reason, because this is something was created before. They will list it for you so you can use it. But we create a new prefix. Now in the provisioning wireless, this is the SSID that we have configured in the network settings. So if you remember, in the provisioning here, we went to network settings, and this is employee secure. If you edit, you'll find we have configured this one So we're going to copy the same name so we don't make mistake. And that's going to be the SSID the user will connect to onboard. We just add the service. So automatically, some enforcement profiles and policies have been created, the role mapping policy as well as 3 different services. And if you scroll down, you're going to see them listed here. 2 of them are application based, which is to do with the onboarding. And one of them is the real radius authentication that will happen once before the onboarding, and then the user will be disconnected and then reconnect using the certificate using EAP-TLS. We're going to edit something, a few parameters. So we go to this, the authorization service, application based type. We click on it. We will change the authorization from guest to local user repository. So again, of course, you can add, you can leave both of them. I'm going to leave both of them anyway. So that's one thing we can do, or you can even connect to Active Directory and so on and so forth. If you click on the roles here, you'll find these are the role assignment in this authorization service. It's about identifying the device type basically. So conditions and based on different device. So we are Windows. So in this case, this will be applicable to us. If you are Ubuntu, Mac, Chrome, MacBook, Chrome, and so on, you'll have different roles assigned to you. So if everything works, in our case, with this onboard window, role will be assigned to that connected device. We're going to save it because that's the only change we need to make in this specific type of service, which we have made in the onboard authorization. We'll do something similar to this pre-authorization service. So we'll click on this and we will go to authorization, and also we'll add the local user repository here. And basically this means that they are able to read from the local user as well as from the guest. Now, if you remember, we created in the authentication method, we created, so for this, we're going to make a change. So this is the one we're going to use. Which one we are going to use is the one that we have created, which is our, the next one we will edit is the pre-authentication, onboard pre-authentication. So here we go to the authentication tab, and we would like, in this case, so again, this is the local user as we've done in the other one. We'll move on and we will edit the radius service. Now in the radius service, if you click on authentication, you'll find that they're using EAP-Fast as well as EAP-TLS OCSP. Now this is, we copied this, we created another one. We're going to remove this and we're going to add the one we have created, my lab. If you remember, this is to do with the OCSP link. And obviously here we're talking about onboard and guest. I will add one additional source with local user. So this is when the user connects as a local user. Again, we could have done it as an Active Directory if we wanted. Obviously, practically, when user connect as an employee, they will fetch the details from Active Directory normally, or maybe an online directory service. So in the enforcement here, you will notice the 2 types of enforcement. One as a pre-provisioning and one is post-provisioning. So here we're talking about the enforcement, what happens really, what kind of actions would be. It depends on the enforcement, it depends on the conditions, the pre-provisioning in this case, and otherwise we'll go post-provisioning after the onboard. We're going to save this one, nothing else we need to change. Ideally, of course, services should be unique, but this is just I'm using for demonstration purpose. I would like to push these 3 services at the very top to make sure they are the ones that are used. So normally I go from the bottom one, click once and then move at the top, the next one, then move to the top, and the last one, and the last one move to the top. So we have the 3 services as we wanted them to look like. The pre-auth should be should move to so ideally would like to reorder them. So start from the bottom one, move to the very top. Next one, we'll move to the top as well. So now we are left, we need to move to this to the top. So this is first, this is second. Now we will have the last one should be at the very top, which is the same order basically. So we have the 3 services: provisioning, authorization, and pre-authorization as the same order, and we will save this. So now they are at the top. These 3 services, 1, 2, and 3. Let's go to the mobility controller. That is applicable also to Instant AP, for example, or version 10. And we'll configure the BYOD role, provisioning role, that will be mapped to the BYOD capture portal. So we are on the mobility controller, we go to the configuration, and then we go to authentication. Now that's authentication. Of course, we will go to layer 3 authentication first, and we'll go to capture portal. We're going to create a new one, basically. So we're going to create a new one. We call it onboard. And we're going to go default role. This is before people authenticate. We leave it guest or logon. And after you authenticate is based on the authentication method. So the role, we're going to change it now later on. That will be the role that will redirect users. But the key point here is to direct what is the URL that you will be redirected to. And if you remember from the provisioning settings, this is where we defined the URL or the name of the page. So we plug in, if you remember, and that's the name of the page. We'll just copy, not to make mistakes here, and we're going to go here, and we will define the link. So the link, the login page should be https 10.254.1.25, the IP address of the ClearPass, and it is the onboard. So onboard, and then back / the name of the page .php. So that's the name of the page. Welcome page, you can change it obviously. We can also define other things, but we will leave it as basic one. So the key point is here, and then we will come back and change this role after we create a new role. We're going to submit this. Probably we need to check one more thing. If you go to onboard, and what is the server group we're going to use. Now we already have an SSID created in here. We're going to use that server group for authentication purpose, which is this one. That's the one that belongs to WLAN SSID called secure one. So now we will come back to this, and after we create the role. So we go to roles and policies. You can do this one the command line, but it's easier here. And we're going to create a new one, just a name, and we give it a name that is meaningful to us. BYOD did say role. And we're going to just submit this. You don't have to do it now, we'll do it later. So two things we need to do. Number one, in the wireless service, we have to go to this editor, and the pre-authentication role that will be assigned should be the BYOD. So in the access here, you see, of course you have to have the license installed on this one. In the access, you need to use that role. So that's number one. Second thing, you need to go back now to the second thing, we go back to authentication, and we have to make sure we map the role to the BYOD capture portal. So the capture portal and default login role, we go and map that role to that specific one. This is the one we have created. So that would cause redirection. And we're going to submit this, and we're going to save it. Of course, we can verify this by going to system, and we can go to the roles, go more. We can verify by going to roles that we have. We can order by name, whatever. So it's maybe alphabetical order, easier to. And we have configured that one called BYOD. And you can show advanced, and in here you can see the role that will be mapped. If you look at this one here, and in the authentication, it should show capture portal profile should be onboard, the one we created. If not, so you can always add it, and you submit if it was not added, and then you just pending changes, apply. Let's do the test. So that's the client, and if we try to connect to secure one, hopefully we see secure one here. Our SSID is secure one, so we should be requested to provide username password. So we're gonna provide the username password. This is a username that was configured on ClearPass itself. So I'm going to do test one. Connect. So on ClearPass, you can see that the user has logged in, and the profile that was used, employees on board or the service, and this is the role that was assigned called employee. Anyway, what's the output here? The response, BYOD provision. So the role that was sent back was BYOD provision, the one we have sent, we have created. The role we're going to add is BYOD provision, so that will match what is going to be sent back by ClearPass. And in that BYOD provision, we need to map it to a capture portal. So we just scroll down and look at BYOD provision, show advanced view, more, expand the authentication, and we need to make sure the capture portal profile is correctly configured to them. That's a capture portal profile, and we'll map it to BYOD provision role. So we're going to submit this, and we need to make sure that the URL is the correct one. So we're going to go HTTPS. So that's the complete URL that the user will be redirected. Default role is this, and we would like to do one more thing. which is basically we need to make sure they use the correct server group, which is the one that will authenticate people. So the role is going to be added, and it's BYOD provision. And if you look into this, this is the role. We have to make sure it's mapped to the correct capture portal. So that's a capture portal profile on board, and we're going to submit this. We'll verify also the capture portal. We go to authentication, make sure that we have correctly configured this. Onboard, BYOD provision, we're going to change this. And in the server group, submit. And in the server group, make sure we use the correct group. Building changes, apply. So all the ingredients are in place for the BYOD to work. Now we are going to connect. Now we are going to connect. If it is connected before we forget, again for demo purpose. We go back to the controller and double check show user. In the BYOD provisioning role, we need at least to add a policy that will allow traffic. So for the time being, we're going to just add, to simplify the matter, to allow them to become an IP. So allow all. So we will allow to add existing policy. We're going to allow all in this case, so they will be redirected. Apply the changes. Now we go and connect. So the user has picked up an IP now. If we try to go wherever, that should redirect us. Add a new policy. So we will add the login control and capture portal 2 policies. Capture portal, we'll add this. Add another one, login control. Let's open a browser. If you type any IP, you should be redirected to the capture portal, which is the BYOD one. We will now log in with the credentials. So now it takes us to start the quick connect. Now remember, on ClearPass, we connected and then we are authenticated now, radius. So no application pre-authorization and pre-authentication has still been used. We're going to start the process. So this will download the quick connect. We just download this. Now we open the folder and we need to start the application. So the quick connect, that will help us install the certificate on the machine. If we look at ClearPass, the certificate that is not used yet. So authentication method is EPEEP. So we're going to start. If everything works correctly, then we should have the certificate downloaded, installed, and then this is just to let you know the certificate being installed. So we're going to say yes. Yes. Now we try to connect again. So this is to disconnect and reconnect the client using certificate.